I'm just a fan, and these are my 10 minutes for The Conjuring. Now, if you don't know how this works, I'm going to watch a movie that I've never seen before in my entire life, not even once, in this case, The Conjuring, and then I get myself 10 minutes, as soon as the movie's over, 10 minutes to talk about it, anything I can think of to say, anything that comes to mind as soon as I'm done seeing it, no time to think about what I'm going to say or about the movie, just boom, right into it, and here we are. So, I hope you're excited. The Conjuring, horror movie. I actually really like horror movies quite a bit. I've always been, I mean, I'm a fan of pretty much any genre of movie, but scary ones in particular are just fun to me for some reason. I like the concept of how are film creators, or how is this group of people, this team of people, going to make something scary for people. So I like the concept of that, and I've seen trailers for this movie, and I'm pretty excited because it seems like it got a pretty good, following after it came out. Or people are like, oh yeah, The Conjuring, yeah, that's a scary one, kind of thing. So I'm excited for it. Here we go, The Conjuring. Well, you just watched me watch the end of it, and now I get 10 minutes to talk about The Conjuring. I'm going to put my electronic brick on here for 10 minutes, and then we'll see what happens after that. Ready? Here we go. Um, that was a big disappointment. Well, at least a moderate to medium disappointment of a movie, because it didn't know what it wanted to be. It had no focal point. You'll hear me say this a lot if you haven't already noticed, but I appreciate movies and I respect movies that know what they want to be. And this one, it was like, do I want to be a creepy doll movie? Do I want to be a demonic possession movie? Do I want to be a guy learns how to be an exorcist movie? Do I want to be a family, problem movie? Do I want to be a house problem movie? Do I want to be like a terrible things happen in this place before movie, and so terrible things are going to happen again? Like, it just didn't even know what it wanted to be. It had like almost every single classic horror movie thing you could possibly think of. I mean, just, watching it right there and coming out of it, there was like the person who got pulled in the bed or whatever, getting limbs pulled. There's the person who thought they saw things that weren't really there. There's the person who got, bruised all over because of whatever reasons. There was like obviously the exorcism possession thing. There was the whole like creepy objects thing. There's the whole seeing a dead body or a dead face in water thing. I mean, how many things did they possibly, birds flying into walls and windows and swarming the house for no reason? It was like, you can't just do everything and expect your movie to be scary, especially when they don't really have any seriously, genuinely scary, unsettling things. The reviewers, the best reviewers of movies in the whole world, are the guys that do half in the bag. At least that's my opinion. But they point out, I think in their Paranormal Activity 4 review, that these kinds of movies are just, let's just startle the audience. Let's just do something where you get the intensity up and you try to build suspense through visuals or sound or whatever, and then you go boom and scare them right in the face with loud noises and loud this and loud that. And that's what most of this movie was. There was like one scene I can think of that was only slightly upsetting or unsettling would be the word, which was there was the girl, Lorraine, fell through the floor or whatever. She's in the basement, and then she sees the feet of the hanged or hung person. But then like it started like to move. It wasn't just like it was swinging. Like it started moving and rotating. I think that was kind of cool. And that wasn't even a thing that was like a jump scare. Like 90% of the scares in this movie, it was just like an unsettling thing of like, whoa, wait, like there's a hanged person, and it's just like it's moving. It's just like kind of cool, kind of creative. Most of this movie was sort of creative. I mean, on that note, too, most of the movie was sort of creative to some degree. Like, it had a decent start, but then it just started going all over the place. Even in the beginning, it was like, so is this a movie about the two people who are married but do the exorcism-ish stuff? Or, I mean, I guess the whole point was they weren't exorcists, but I don't know. It was like, do we focus on the family? Do we focus on the house? Do we focus on this doll? Do we focus on the class of, like, I mean, I went to college, but I never had a choice for, like, exorcism class. So I have no idea what they were doing in this area where like people are in a giant room, a filled up room, lecture hall type thing, where they're like watching people do exorcism stuff and then like laughing at some of the jokes and asking questions. I was like, what? Where is this? And who is this? And why is this? And when is this? On the topic of when is this, they pointed out how it was in 1971, and I think the movie kind of forgot that for a little while. Not that it was a terrible job about being in that decade, but like the cars made sense and such. But then there was at one point where what were they doing? Some guy was talking to a different guy, or no, talking to one of the girls, and he showed her the UV black light. He said, "Put your hand flat on the table." And he showed her how the UV black light would show how her handprint was there, or something like that. And he's like, pretty far out, huh? And I was like, oh, there's like the first 70s term I've heard all movie. And she's like, yeah, it's pretty groovy. And like that was the only time in the whole movie when I thought, oh yeah, this is definitely the 70s, and it shows. It was just like, they're like, oh yeah, we have to add that in there. And they just kind of, they did, and then they forgot about it for the rest of the movie. Really weird. I mean, it could not focus on any single thing that made any sense. I really don't know what the point of the movie was. I really don't. I guess there's a movie called Annabelle Creation that came out most recently. Are those related? Because when I went into this, I saw the trailer for this movie. I haven't seen it before, of course, but I saw the trailer for it, and I saw it had like the clap clap thing. And it's funny how they borrowed. I mean, this is fair, but they borrowed so many other horror movie tropes, like the grabbing and the hair and the claws. I mean, just everything ever. Someone scaring someone else just to be annoying and funny. Trying to get through a door and then no one's there when you open it or whatever, anything like that, all those things. But then they invented, like, or they kind of coined, at least for modern horror movies, they coined this like clap clap thing. They're like, yeah, we did that, but then it was barely part of the movie, and I think that was the most shown thing in the trailer that I saw. And this is years ago, but just like recollecting that, it's like, oh yeah, this is the clap clap movie. But then there was a doll that they show at the very beginning that they focus on for no reason that I can tell by the end of the movie, but it was called Annabelle. So was the Annabelle Creation movie related to this? Even if it is, even if it's not, I just don't see why it was in the movie. It started the whole thing. It was like, wow, this is a focus, man. We're going to go with this, and it's doing cool stuff. And I kind of like the stuff it did. This is part of the creativity. It got the whole, like, there's a creepy doll thing going on, and it got the whole, like, it's obviously happening kind of thing. We didn't have to start, keep questioning, is someone really messing with us, or are we just seeing things? Like, like with the crayons, that was the cool part with that. Had the Annabelle doll, I guess, and the crayons, and it had all the drawing on the wall and the writing of "Miss Me" or something like that. Did you miss me? Which never meant anything. It was just there because a doll writing "Did you miss me" is apparently inherently creepy, I guess, which it's not. But I guess the creators of the movie thought so, because all these things they put in there are supposed to be creepy and scary, and I guess individually they might be, and if they're happening in real life, of course they would be. But as a movie, this thing just did not work very well at all. I'm not sure how much time I have left. Other things. There are a lot of characters in this movie that didn't really add to it. I mean, there were 5 daughters, and then there were the 2 exorcist people and the 2 parents, and then, like, at least 2 other guys, and they were just kind of there. I didn't really get that. Some weird transitions in this movie, just going along with with the 2 guys who were there to help and the 2 exorcists. A lot of weird things where it was like, we need to call the people, get some help or whatever. And then they did, and then like all of a sudden these other guys were there, and then all of a sudden they were showing this like happy family breakfast thing where everyone's kind of laughing and eating waffles or pancakes or something. And the mom was like, man, I really miss days like this. Or like, it's just nice to have some laughter back in the house. And it was like, oh, they're all just staying in the house. Is that what's going on here? How long has it been? What exactly are they all doing? It was just kind of like, where are we now? I mean, I barely knew where we were before, and now we're at this new point of the story, or this new point with the characters and what they're doing, and I have no idea why, or when that happened, or what their current goals are, or what's happened recently. It was, I don't want to say it's a super big mess, but it's a little bit messy, and the movie just kind of loose. Like, it has, like, there's a lot of things scattered around, and what you want, I guess, for a movie, thinking about it from this perspective, is, lots of things that each scene, or each point, or each important detail about the movie, and they get strung together really well, and they make this nice, arc of character stuff, they make a nice little climax and resolution and all that stuff. And this one, it was just like, things were everywhere, and then they didn't even really connect almost at all, and then they just kind of plopped them into a movie and said, here, it's scary. And I feel like Jeff Goldblum, in Jurassic Park when he's like, now we do have dinosaurs on our dinosaur tour. Hello? That whole thing. I kind of just felt like that. Like, do we actually have any scary scenes in our scary movie, or is it all just like jump scare, jump this, and nothing ties together? And there's no reason. There's no reason to care about any of the scares or what's happening really to the characters. I mean, they were likable characters. I'm glad it wasn't like Amityville Horror or something where it's like, ooh, the dad's possessed and he's going crazy and doing bad things so obviously the whole time. And that sort of worked for that movie, I guess. But for this one, I'm glad they didn't do that. But again, gosh, it was just like, what was the point? Because the mom of the family turned out to be the one who was getting possessed, even though the daughter and the exorcist couple's family was like having trouble there, and then all the individual teenage girls or even younger, just daughters or whatever, they were having issues. Like, she would see something and she would get her hair pulled or whatever. I thought it was weird how they would cut the hair, because it's not like they don't have more for the spiritual thing to grab, or like why that would just make it stop all of a sudden. That was weird. This whole movie, now that I'm thinking about it even more and more, it's just like, what even was going on for most of that? And I really hope, I'm excited to read some reviews, because I really hope other people see how weird it is like I do. It's not even complete crap. Like, there's some decent visuals, except for some of the CG effects. When the chair, the first chair that got thrown, without the person in it, when they're at the exorcist people's house, and the daughter is like, like watching the, what's she doing? Yeah. She was watching the chair, like, rocking, and what she was seeing, at least for a bit, was someone holding the Annabelle doll, which was one of those things where I said the doll's head's going to rotate and it's going to try to be all creepy, and of course the doll head rotates and looks at her and tries to be all creepy, and it wasn't creepy at all. But then when the her dad grabs her out of the way and the chair flies at the door, and it had this really weird few frames of horrible CG effects, of the chair shattering. It was I laughed. It was actually laughably kind of dumb. And most of it I did kind of, well, not most of it. Some scenes I did kind of laugh at, just because okay, sure, because I just lost faith after halfway through the movie when nothing cohesive or coherently was happening with the movie, where it's like, oh yeah, makes sense why we're here, makes sense why that's happening, makes up, and there's the alarm. But just to finish that thought right there, it just, there were so many scenes of just I can't see where this is going, and I can't see how it connects to anything else that's happened so far, other than just really basic stuff of they were having spiritual, demonic, whatever problems, and then they called the exorcist, and the exorcist showed up, and they're like, why don't you just leave? I mean, it was really basic stuff like that, but this is a 2000, I gotta look it up now, this is a 2000 teens movie, and it's they can't even do anything more creative than just the most basic possible, IMDb. They can't do anything that's the most basic possible horror movie where it's just oh yeah, these things are happening, and then they happened, and then that's over. 2013. I mean, come on. Horror movies have been around for a long time, and that's the best they got. Not impressed. So that's my take on The Conjuring, at least thinking about it for 10 or 10 and a half minutes after I saw it. If you have questions, let me know. If you found it horrifying, then please let me know, because I want to know why. I would love to know why people think this is a good movie or a great movie, and or why they think it's even a scary movie at all, especially if you consider that pretty much everything that happened was a jump scare, and nothing really actually unsettling or creepy was even happening. Please let me know, because I need to be convinced that this is a movie worth praising, worth saying it's great, and worth watching again, because I might see the sequel just because I'm curious what's going to happen. I'm curious if they can figure out what's important about the story. Again, is it the exorcist people? Are they the important ones? Is it the house itself? Is it the family? Is it the mom? Is it the daughters? Is it what even is it? I have no idea. So I might see the sequel, but please try to convince me through comments, messages, or email at contactjustafan@gmail.com why this is a good movie, or I guess maybe you could agree with me too, because I'm probably right. Am I right? Now, it's getting kind of cold in here. I found a bruise on my arm, and there's some clapping going on, so I need to go rest and warm up and go find the clapping.